You mentioned a number of tools there. Do you have examples for any of the others? There was a lot there.
Yeah, near duplicate identification is an interesting one. This is not conceptual in nature at all. It's purely a comparison of text, and that's it. So certainly good to find different versions of contracts or things like that where you're looking for those differences. I have an interesting story where we used it for something totally not that. I had a client call me one time. She was reviewing 200,000 documents produced to her in PDF form, no metadata, no text. She's doing it manually in Adobe, right? I'm like, what are you doing? I'm talking to her about this and I'm seeing a lot of duplicates, Vinny. So I'm like, all right, we can ingest it. Let's ingest it into Relativity. I ran near duplicate identification, got almost nothing back. So I'm like, what are you talking about, lady, right? Nothing's duplicative. She brought up these examples of documents that were duplicates, and I'm looking at it with her and I'm like, yeah, these look exactly the same. And what we found was that opposing counsel had OCR'd the documents after they put the endorsements on. So the Bates numbers were in the text, and when we ran near duplicate identification, naturally there weren't 100% matches, though they should have been. So we used a combination of repeated content filters, which is basically the ability to find patterned text, right? Typically boilerplate contract language that's at the end, and basically ignore that. So we used regular expressions to find all of the variation of that Bates number and the Bates of value to remove that from the duplicate analysis. So we did that, and then we reran it, and it was 70%, over 70% duplicative. I gave my client the spreadsheet, all the statistics, all the numbers, even examples. She was able to go back to the court, and they forced opposing to reproduce those documents with basically 30% of what they had originally given her. So huge win for us, but it was all technology driven.
When we talk about deduplication, it's very common in the industry to apply a global filter for duplicate content. That covers email families and loose files looking for one-to-one matches. That's represented by various hash value protocols. Even after you dedupe a data set at the family level, there are still tons of duplicates by hash value that you can pivot off with a basic analytics filter. You can go into Relativity and hit tally sum average on the MD5 hash value, and it'll spit out by integer level any high volume repeat documents that survive the global dedupe filter. That's a great way to find extraneous content or content that you could move to the bottom of the list in terms of priority. And that's something we leverage all the time. It's a good example, and some of the questions earlier related to other overlooked analytics tools. I got to tell you, as you start finding key content, whatever the source and however it relates to your claims or defenses, it's important that you start looking at metadata markers, things like the hash value, the author, the time frame those were sent within, email participants, even common phrases that are unique to a particular company's approach to doing business, their communication styles, or the subject matter at hand. You can start extracting these details and putting them back into an analytics filter and really provide a lot of insight and value back to your clients.
Good input. I think between the two of you, those are some of the two nerdiest and helpful answers to a question that I've ever heard.
I'll lean into it. I'll lean into it.
That's a compliment. When you were talking about the relativity command, you lost me, but that's a good thing.
Tally sum average.
That's right. Tally sum average is, let's talk about that. Tally sum average, right? Tallying on MD5 hash and seeing hundreds of thousands of duplicates of a company logo, right? Very quickly able to identify those for sure.
Yeah.